All right, this video is going to be part 2 of graphing sine and cosine. This video is going to be a little more tricky, and here's why. You're going to have to shift your start. So last video we started on like an x value of 0 for all of these. Well, that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you're going to have to start at a different location, like negative 2 pi over 9. And then you're going to have to be able to kind of add this period to find out where you finish at. So the name of the game here is going to be common denominators. You're going to have to be able to do like negative 2 pi over 9 plus 2 pi over 3. But they don't have a common denominator. So it would really be like this, negative 2 pi over 9 plus 6 pi over 9. That's still 2 pi over 3. 4 pi over 9 would be my finished location. Now, on top of that, you're going to have the scale factor, right? So that's where it divides it up, kind of like this, into 5 locations. Well, that's period divided by 4. So that's going to be, after you reduce 2 pi over 12, that's pi over 6. That's how much you're going to add to your start over and over and over again. Well, these don't have a common denominator either. So you're going to have to be able to look at this and be like, okay, this is actually negative 4 pi over 18. And you're going to be adding pi over 6 each time, which is 3 pi over 18. So like my first one would be at negative pi over 18. So I actually drew that red dot there on the wrong side of the axis. So like my first one would be here at negative pi over 18. The next one, I would just be adding 3 pi over 18 each time. So that would be 2 pi over 18, which reduces to be pi over 9. Then I would add another 3 pi over 18 to it. So 5 pi over 18, that one doesn't reduce. And then a good way to check and see if you did this right is to add the last 3 pi over 18. That would be 8 pi over 18, which is 4 pi over 9, which is my finished location. So that's why this is going to be so difficult. It's all about common denominators. Here we go. Let's look at this first one. It's a positive sine function. I'm still going to do my checklist. So like I'm still going to have amplitude is the first number, 2. Then I've got the period, which is 2 pi divided by b. There's no b here, so it's still just 2 pi. Then I'm still going to have scale factor, which is the period divided by 4. So 2 pi over 4 is pi over 2. And then I'm still going to have midline, which there's no shift at the end here, so it's still just y equals 0. But now I'm going to add one. I'm going to add start. This is going to be my starting location. I have to find it. The way you find it is you take this whole parentheses part, x plus 4 pi over 3, and you set it equal to 0. And you solve for x. So negative 4 pi over 3 is my start. That's the difference between last video and this video. Your start is different. So to find where I end up, I'm going to add the period. So I'm going to add 2 pi. But I have to get a common denominator. So 2 pi is actually 6 pi over 3. So I'm going to end up at 2 pi over 3 when this is all said and done. Now, I'm also going to do scale factor. I need to add pi over 2 each time to the start. So it'd look like this. But these don't have common denominators. So I'm going to have to change it to like negative 8 pi over 6 plus 3 pi over 6. So like my first one would be at negative 5 pi over 6. Then I'm going to add another 3 pi over 6. And I keep doing this until I have all of my locations. So I'm going to have one at negative 5 pi over 6. I'm going to have one at negative 2 pi over 6, and I'm going to have one at pi over 6. So these are my locations. Negative 5 pi, I'm going to have to write really small here. Negative 2 pi over 6, which is really negative pi over 3. You should be reducing these as you go. And this one's positive pi over 6. So finding the red and the green right there is 99% of it, because now you can just come through and be like, okay, this is a positive sine function. That means it starts on the midline, which, remember, my midline was y equals 0. So it starts on the midline, then it goes high, which I didn't do my amplitude, but it goes up 2, down 2. So it goes high, then it goes back to midline, then it goes low, then it goes back to midline. So this one would look like this. And then it would repeat. I know, that's a lot, I know. But basically, in a nutshell, you're finding your start, and then from there, you're going to add your scale factor. You just got to have a common denominator. All right, let's look at another. I'm going to start my checklist. The amplitude here is 3. The period is 2 pi divided by b, but there's no b value there, so it's just 2 pi, which means the scale factor, just divide that by 4, and you get pi over 2. The midline, there's no shift at the end, so it's just y equals 0. And then I've got the start. And if you set x minus 7 pi over 6 equal to 0, you would get 7 pi over 6 as your start. So here's what this one would look like. I'm going to have a start at 7 pi over 6. I'm going to have a midline of y equals 0. I'm going to have an amplitude of 3. So it's going to go up 3, down 3. Now I got to go get my end location and my scale factor. So I take my start of 7 pi over 6. I'm just going to go and get all the midlines right now, because if you get all the midlines, you'll get the end location as well. So 7 pi over 6, I need to add pi over 2 each time. That's 3 pi over 6. So my first one's going to be 10 pi over 6, which is really 5 pi over 3. My next one's going to be at 13 pi over 6. Next one's at 16 pi over 6, which is really 8 pi over 3. My last one's at 19 pi over 6. That's the end location. So you could have gotten this one by adding 2 pi to the start. That would have worked, because you would have added 12 pi over 6, which is 2 pi, and you would have gotten 19 pi over 6. Or you can get it from your scale factor as long as you keep going all the way to the end, just like that. So once you have all this down, this problem becomes pretty easy. Basically, this is going to be a positive cosine function. So it's going to start high, go mid, go low, go mid, and go high. So this one's going to look like this. The green's the hardest part, I'm telling you. Once you get the green down, it makes much more sense. Now, this one's going to be even trickier, because let's just walk through it. I'm going to have an amplitude of 1. There's no number out in front. Now, the period is why this one's going to be tricky, because you have a b value. It's right here, it's 2. So you have to do 2 pi divided by the b value, which is 2. It's for period. So I got pi as the period, which means divide that by 4 to get the scale factor. Pi over 4 is my scale factor. So now I know my period is pi. My scale factor is pi over 4. My midline, there's no shift at the end, so it's just y equals 0. And then the start. Now the start on this one, you would have to set 2x minus pi over 3 equal to 0 and solve this. Divide by 2 and you get pi over 6. That's your start. So I'm going to start here at pi over 6. Now I'm going to be adding my scale factor over and over and over again. But these don't have a common denominator. So be careful here because you're going to have pi over 6 plus pi over 4 over and over. Well, pi over 6 is really 2 pi over 12. And you're going to be adding 3 pi over 12 over and over. So like my first one's at 5 pi over 12. Then I do it again, add another 3 pi over 12. It gives me 8 pi over 12. Which is really 2 pi over 3. Add it again. You get 11 pi over 12. And then one more time. You get 14 pi over 12. All right, and by the way, that's 7 pi over 6. So, I don't know why it keeps erasing. My stylus doesn't like this section of my screen over here. I'll work through it though, that's okay. So now, put your amplitude down. So it went up 1, down 1. And then you're ready to go. It's just a positive sine function. So it starts mid, goes high, goes mid, goes low, and goes mid. So it would look like this. That one was a little trickier. Now these last 3 get even worse. Let's look at this next one. I'm going to have an amplitude of 1 because there's no number out in front. Now the period here, I have a b value. It's 3. So the period is 2 pi divided by b. So it's 2 pi over 3. Now from that, to get the scale factor, I would divide it by 4, which would give me 2 pi over 12, which is really pi over 6. That's my scale factor. The midline, there's no shift at the end, so it's just y equals 0. And then the start, if you set 3x, I'll just write it out, 3x plus 2 pi over 3 equal to 0 and solve it. You get negative 2 pi over 9 here. Okay, now the hardest part I'm going to tackle first. That's the scale factor. So you have your start of negative 2 pi over 9. And you're going to be adding pi over 6 each time. These don't have a common denominator. So I'm going to convert them all to be over 18. So it's going to look like negative 4 pi over 9 plus 3 pi over 18. So my first one's at negative pi over 18 here. Then I do it again. I get 2 pi over 18, which really is pi over 9. Next one's at 5 pi over 18. And the last one's at 8 pi over 18. All right. The amplitude was 1, so it's going to go up 1, down 1. And now I'm ready to draw it. So this is a positive cosine. Positive cosine starts high, goes mid, goes low, goes mid, and ends high. So it would look like this. Okay, 2 to go. The last one's a doozy. But let's look at this next one. Make your list. So amplitude is the first number, -2. The period, there's no, oh, this one's weird because there's a b value here as pi. So when you do period, you're looking at 2 pi divided by b, which is pi. So your period is 2, which means your scale factor is a half. You don't have a shift at the end, so your midline's still y equals 0. And then your start, you would have to do pi x minus pi equals to 0 and solve it. Pi x equals pi divided by pi, x equals 1. So this one doesn't have any pi's or anything in it. It's just numbers. So basically, you're just adding a half each time for your scale factor. So it's like 1, 1.5, which is 3 halves, 2, 2.5, which is 5 halves, then 3. Okay, now your amplitude being -2 means it's going to go up 2, down 2. And then it's just a negative cosine function, which starts low, goes mid, goes high, goes mid, goes low. So that one was a little weird just because your period didn't have any pi or anything in it. The scale factor didn't have any pi or anything in it. And your starting location was just a value of 1, no pi's. You'll see that every now and then. Okay, and then this last one. This last one has an amplitude of 3/4, the first number. The period is 2 pi over b. Well, b's right here this time. It's outside, it's 4. So it's like 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. Now you divide that by 4 to get the scale factor, pi over 8. The midline shifts up 4. It's that number at the end, so y equals 4. And then your start, you would just set the x minus 2 pi over 3 equals to 0. So you wouldn't worry about the 4. It's not in the parentheses. So your start's just 2 pi over 3. All right, here we go. 2 pi over 3 is my start. I'm going to be adding my scale factor to this over and over again. So let me get myself a little room to work here. Start is 2 pi over 3. I need to be adding pi over 2. No, sorry, pi over 8 each time. So I got to get a common denominator here. So I'm going to use 24. So it's really like 16 pi over 24 plus 3 pi over 24 over and over again. So this first one's at 19 pi over 24. And do it again. So now it's 22 pi over 24. Again, which by the way, that's 11 pi over 12. So I get 25 pi over 24. Then the last one, 28 pi over 24. Which, by the way, is 14 pi over 12, so 7 pi over 6. All right, put my amplitude down. It's 3/4, so it's going to go up to like 1 3/4 or 7/4, or down to negative. Oh, sorry, no, it would just be 3/4. Let's try this again. All right, your amplitude is 3/4. So that means from 0, it's going to go up 3/4, down 3/4, like that. That's better. All right, now I'm ready to graph this. It's a positive cosine function, which starts high, goes mid, goes low, goes mid, and goes high. So it would look like this. All right, so the key is really getting your scale factor correct, all the green part. You really have to be able to do a common denominator and add that scale factor over and over and over again so that you know where to put the mostly green numbers on the graph. Once you get that down, it shouldn't be that difficult. So I hope this video helped.